Hello, SM fans. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone, wherever you might be watching me from. I remain Chigozie Ndibo, the host anchor, bringing your way the unbiased reportage and analysis of events within Nigeria and across, of course, the African states. As in the hot at this moment, there have been several coups and panic spreading the entire African states. Of course, the Central African has not been left out. The most recent is Gabon, and there have been scars that are possible. Of course, Cameroon and Rwanda. Nigeria, of course, is not left out because of the political instability that is hitting the entire sphere. And people begin to wonder how long could this be sustained, and why should this be in the first place? These are most of the things we shall be considering in today's in-depth political rumbles here in Conwave TV. Yes, the first statement made by the presidential candidates of PDP, Atiku, saying that the leaders of the African states should reconsider their positions and address the reasons and why the coup is, of course, coming in the first instance because of mismanagement of public funds and, of course, poor governance that is making, of course, life more unbearable for the people. And at this time, people could no longer bear the excesses and the heartlessness of these people. How could a sitting president embezzle so much and without any recourse to the plight and the pains, agonies of the masses passing through? It's rather unfortunate when you take a sample of the African states that have been toppled, of course, of most recently, you discover that these people, what defines them is poverty, what defines them is backwardness, what defines them is retrogression. And how long should this continue? Why billions are being gutted out from the same scene, from the same countries where people are impoverished, where people's livelihoods, is not prioritized by the same government, parading themselves as democratic, constituted institutions. That is quite unfortunate. It is an aberration, and it is high time we begin to address this as African sons and daughters, wherever you might be across the nations of the earth. If Africa was what it should be, of course, I believe that most people wouldn't contemplate leaving the shores of Africa, because the political leaders have rendered African useless, if I may use the word. They have done so many damage to African people, and in a bid, of course, to remain relevant, possibly to our political stooge, to their Western counterpart. Well, I think the movement, as I can see at this particular time, is more or less the people's movement. Why do I say so? Just taking an instance, of course, of what happened in Niger Republic when the constitutionally democratic government was toppled. Of course, the people were rejoicing. There was carnival, celebration across the length and breadth of the Niger Republic. The same thing happened in Gabon. You see people excited, happy, because they could no longer tolerate the injustice that is meted on them. Now, the president of Nigeria, being the leader of ECOWAS, is saying that, of course, other African states should tighten up, of course, security. To this end, Cameroon and the Rwanda government has, of course, released most of the top military personnel of their jobs. They have, of course, compulsorily retired them. But that would not in any way solve the problem. The major issue is the welfare of the masses prioritized. What is the government, if you are a democratic constituted government are people enjoying the dividends of democracy. Why is it that priority, of course, the welfare and the well-being of the citizens are not the priority of this government? It's quite rather unfortunate that they resort to, of course, dismissing these top military personnel as a way of consolidating themselves within the corridor of power without any objective of bettering the lots of the people. They think they are secured by doing so, not knowing that most of the coups, of course, the government that is being toppled are just vibrant, young, energetic military officers who are giving up with the system, who is no longer happy with what is happening in their own soil. The level of subjugation, the level of deprivation, exploitation, of course, with the conspiracy of those they call political leaders within different states, not just a particular state in Africa. Of course, they have to show them the exit door by way of ousting them out and keeping them where they belong. I think this will serve as a lesson to those who are yet to experience such, that they should rather sit up and not take the people for granted before it becomes too late for them. How can Africans who are well, of course, endowed with human capital and natural resources be wallowing in abject poverty? A continent that was, of course, that enjoyed the cradle of civilization are the ones now, of course, retrogressive in nature by all standards and all considerations. Of course, no wonder the African sons and daughters are leaving the shores of Africa being exploited. We have brain drains, of course, across the nations within the African continent. How long can this continue? And most of the African sons and daughters are being marginalized and subjugated, oppressed in different countries across the continent of the world where they reside. And this is not, of course, going down with the people. And this movement, I believe, must be supported by every African lover, every African sons and daughters who want a new dawn for their own people. No, we might not, of course, support the continued coup that is almost going on, but it is an indication that the current leadership has failed the African continent. And as such, we need to reconsider, of course, the yardsticks of deciding who becomes the leader. For that to happen, the democratic institutions must be strengthened. And how could this be? By holding the government accountable. Nigeria is not left, of course, in this quagmire. That's why people are dissatisfied with the most recent presidential election that was held after INEC, which means perceived to be not independent, though they claim to be independent, gave so many hope to the youths prior to the election, but unfortunately such hope was dashed within a twinkle of an eye because of the inconsistency and inability of INEC to, of course, adhere to its own guidelines of conducting such election that was gross abuse of course, the electoral laws and the guidelines that was laid down by INEC itself. And to this end, the people were indifferent of whatever outcome of such election because it does not meet the requirements or the demands or desires of the people. People expected to have a hitch-free election where over 70% would have believed that the election was credible. But unfortunately, even with the report of the foreign observers, it was the worst election in the history of Africa. And to such end, of course, it is remained the subject of litigation. And we are waiting, as today is the first day of September, possibly in the next 2 weeks, to hit the deadline 16th of September. Let's know what is the position of the tribunal judges, as it is much anticipated there is suspense in the air, and people are waiting to know, of course, what is the next direction or action to take should the contrary happens. Well, we hope that all will go down well as far as these expectations are concerned. And I want to know what is your own reaction regarding the much anticipated, of course, pronouncement. Do you expect and do you have confidence in the electoral process? Do you have confidence in the judicial process? And do you expect that the judgment will be served? Let's know what is your position. And regarding, of course, the good scars, what are the indices that Nigeria may not be the next strike? Do you think that what is happening in different African states, the repeat of such could possibly become the story about Nigeria and Cameroon? Of course, the man is about 90 years, has been speculated, and still with the health condition still want to remain within the corridor of power. While there are vibrant, energetic youths within the Cameroonian states who could drive a more viable state and economy for the good of all. But that is rather unfortunate. That is not the story. That what the president could do is to, of course, dismiss or retire compulsorily those who he perceived to be his political enemies. But with that, of course, save him from the calamity that is already looming, well, that will be answered in the course of time. What becomes the fate of Nigerian state? As we are seeing this moment, Nigeria is at suspense, and nobody knows where it is landing, where it is navigating, despite all, of course, propagandas and deception. We must get it right. Now, my interest is African, my interest is humanity, and we must learn, of course, to uphold the democratic process by adhering to the rules of law and the rules of engagement. If that is not done, if our political institutions are not strengthened, if our systems are not strengthened, we cannot get it right. Because African states, continent, has a blueprint of the visions, of course, how they want to build Africans over dependent of foreign aids, by BNLAS, by default. It's not helping Africans. We have the enormous resources inherent within Africa to make Africa great. But unfortunately, we have not in any way benefited from these enormous resources, even human capital. Rather, there is an indirect slavery, subjugation and exploitation being added by the so-called greedy political elites who has not, of course, done well for their own people and their own continent. Well, let's see how this will be sustained. What is the next action? Which country is the next to be toppled? Well, the remains, of course, a question only time will tell better. Well, I leave you with this until I come your way the next edition. Remain blessed. May the good God continue to bless and preserve our lives in this new month. And may we be, of course, witnesses to what is about to unfold in this continent, Africa. Africa, my pride, my passion, and my pride.